alternative talk radio. Get ready, America, for Deadline Live with your host, Jack Blood. Deadline Live is the daily wrap-up for those too busy in the daily grind to discern and dissect the news. While the so-called mainstream media buries the truth, Jack Blood uncovers it, exposing the lies that our trusted government officials do not want us to know. And now, please welcome Jack Blood.
Created a monster and paralyzed his name. It hides in the forest, in the brick woods. It takes all our assets, our goal is no good. Replace the tether and promises fade to limit the news and control the waves. Haunting our future, digesting our past. It's up to our children to complete the math. The master of countries, controller kings, creates and destroys, never his seen. Osama bin Josephine, Lee Harvey McVeigh. The actions might be different, but the outcome's still the same. Hegelian dialectic, fostered by them, control of the crisis, so they will always win. Fiat paper currency, money knows no home. The beast stays alive through handouts and loans. And when time comes to make good as a nation, it robs us again with a curse called inflation.
Well, as we were just talking about with David Icke in that last hour, if you missed it, you can go back. It's all free, deadlinelive.info, our podcast, our rebroadcast. It's all there for you. Please pass those around. Get them out if you can, because even though you might be the choir, there are a lot of people out there that need to hear the information that comes out on this show every single day now for 10 years. That song, The Creature, obviously The Creature from Jekyll Island, by Earthworm and Fire. That's Diary of a Glad Man. You can get that great Kentucky punk grass band, and you can learn about the Federal Reserve by watching that. Now I want to play you a trailer. This is the big cartoon going completely viral on the internet, all about your money system and the Federal Reserve. It is called The American Dream. Let me play a clip, and then I'll bring on the filmmaker here in just a second. Here it is. Once upon a time, a man had a dream. Until 2008.
I don't have any more money! Hardman, is that you?
Did it? There's not much time.
How did this happen?
I'm here to show you how. The bank only has so much money in the vault to lend out to people, such as you. By the time he got to you, his bank was out of money.
But if they don't have any money, then where did my money come from?
The Fed is a private bank owned by private stockholders.
A private bank?
Do not let the name Federal fool you.
If I got this money from the bank, and the bank got it from the Federal Reserve dump truck, where does the Federal Reserve get their money?
They take our property away, just like Thomas Jefferson said they would.
Those sons of bitches!
It's the greatest theft in human history.
Fighting the lying liars one stupid lie at a time. That is the trailer for The American Dream. It is fast-moving. It is highly educational. It's funny. This is going to translate to a lot of people. And we have the filmmaker on, the director with us today of this great viral cartoon, American Dream. It is Thad Lumpkin. Thank you, Thad, for joining us.
Hey, it's good to be here, Jack. Thanks. It's Tad, actually.
I know. I've got that stuck in my head, and I wrote it down that way.
It's okay.
My bad, Tad.
That's all right.
Well, congratulations, because, a lot of people will make something like this and it may just kind of be flushed away. We don't get to see it. It doesn't get around. And this, you put a lot of time, effort, and I'm sure money into this great half-hour cartoon. And it is getting around for the most part. And you are getting recognition for it. And people are able to understand in a very simple way where our money comes from and who's controlling us. So congratulations on the effort. It is very successful from what I can tell. But give us a little background. What motivated you to do it, and what did it take to create this?
Well, basically the motivation is that, I've always thought that the economic system that works best is one based on, free market principles and individual liberty and individual choice and, sound sustainable theory. And the more you look into the Federal Reserve System printing money backed by nothing, setting interest rates at the government level and Keynesian economics, all this junk that these guys tell you that, tells the common person that they're too, stupid to understand. Well, they can't understand it because it's ununderstandable. It doesn't add up. And, we got really frustrated with that, myself and my partner who did this together with me, but we felt like there was a disconnect with the American public in the sense that most people wouldn't sit down and read Road to Serfdom or read economics books or really take the time to go into this stuff. They just found it boring. So we were big fans of South Park in particular, animation in general, but we realized with South Park you could create any world you wanted, and you could push the envelope really, really far because you're dealing with animated characters and not real people. So we thought the idea, what if instead of attacking this from an intellectual documentarian or historical book point that just lays out the dry approach of it, why don't we make a story that people are going to be interested in seeing, that's going to emotionally engage them and show them at the end of the day, hey man, we're all getting screwed, and that the clock is ticking on when this thing's going to collapse. And if we don't do something now and just go ahead and be responsible and take the control of our own lives back, then things. It's like who knows what's in for America. I mean, every empire that's ever existed has had its end for some of the same reasons that we're headed to. not the best days down the road. So that was kind of the inspiration, is just being able to get outside of the movement of people who already know the dangers of the Fed and getting out there to the broad audience and getting them activated and interested.
Well, and then that's what it takes. A buddy of mine named Mac White is a brilliant illustrator, and he did a book called The Bush Junta back during the Bush years, and, it works. It works because people, they don't read books very much, unfortunately, Tad. I'm one of the few left that collect and read books. And, I learned about the Federal Reserve from Eustace Mullins and The Secret of the Federal Reserve, who learned from Ezra Pound about that, who taught G. Edward Griffin and others. But it is, it's a lot to take on. There's a lot of concepts and a lot of words and a lot of information. So if you could just set the groundwork with something like this, a way to communicate with everybody of all ages in a cartoon, it can be enormously successful. What trials and tribulations have you had, Tad, through all of this? I heard the video was pulled from a few different sites, and I guess it hasn't all been easy.
No, well, I mean, initially what happened is that, we're kind of trying to redefine not redefine, we're trying to kind of invent a model that says that you can do high-end level media. And to do high-end, I mean, not only it takes a lot of work and a lot of, talented individuals' contributions, but it also takes, a lot of money and resources and things like that. And what our take on it is that there's a marketplace to compete on an absolute level, not just like, oh, well, this is good for an alternative media piece. No, it's like, this is good compared to anything else that's out there that any major media company is doing.
Yeah.
Like, that was our goal. So we started with that goal, and we said, we're not cutting corners. We're not going to make it a little cute thing that's one-off. We want to make this like a seminal piece that says, hey, we can show that this can work. So, we were rolling it out slowly. We were trying to learn, do we sell these things? Is there an advertising? was there any way to recoup any money to be able to fund marketing and fund screenings and fund, our goal wasn't to personally profit, from it, but to have ongoing, sustainable funds to continue to push it and spread the word, and then maybe go make more films. And it got out. I think people got really excited who got the first few DVDs, and some people posted it ahead when we were ready. And we kind of went back and forth on the YouTube thing. And after a couple days, we got so many emails of people that's just like, you have to share this with everybody right now because it's so important. That we just kind of, put it out there, put it in God's hands, and just said, you know what? I don't know if we'll make this any kind of sustainable model, but we're just going to put it out there and tell people, if you guys love this stuff, it come, support us, join our Facebook, make sure you pass it around, buy some DVDs for your friends, donate some money, because that's the only way this is going to get done. Because this was a special project, and if you want more special projects, we're going to need the whole movement involved.
That is always the problem with modern day communicating and filmmaking, Tad, that I have seen, is that people are getting very used to getting all this stuff for free. I want everybody to see something like this, especially people who can afford it. Maybe they need to know why they can't afford to buy a film like this, because it's explained in the film. But because it is expensive to do this kind of animation, it's just a huge group effort by so many different people. You gotta be able to at least recoup your funding so you can do more concept films like this, because there's a whole myriad of topics and subjects that you guys could tackle in this manner as part of a series that could be really, really effective. Also, Herod Uhl, I guess, is your partner in this. He helped write and direct this American Dream, starring the voice actors Jess Harnell and D.C. Douglas, and animation services by 6 Point Harness. So, there's a lot of people involved in this, and I'm sure none of you are trying to get rich off of the idea. I know you want to help your country and help people and preserve freedom, but obviously, this is a free market economy, and you're going to need people to vote with their dollars and support you.
Well, yeah, and I think the main thing is that if people understand our motivation, we made this film. All these people have, Harold and I. We don't make our living from doing these media films. We put in our time and our money for free, and we did it because we wanted to get a message out, because we thought it was really important and groundbreaking. And our motivation wasn't like, gee, let's do this because we think there's this huge untapped market that we can make all this money. It was like, you know what, we've got to do something. We've got a particular set of talents and skills, and we know the right people. We can make something really, really special, and let's just do it. And our hope is that we could turn that into something where it wasn't just like you find, like this one. We happen to find, a main contributor who was just willing to say, believe in us, and he believed in this particular issue and saw the vision when, in the middle of the recession and everything, and thought it was really important. And, I don't know how many of those people, every time you gotta find like this diamond in the rough who's gonna give you the money and then beg and borrow for all the favors, and it still costs a fortune. It's just tough to say, well, hey, keep going like that. It's like you need a bit of an entity where you've got some infrastructure, you can pay people over time, and it's like we're still doing it for the love of the cause, and we're going to spread the message. And again, it's not so much about like us being able to live high on the hog. It's more about the concept of it just takes a sustainable business model if you want.
And you want to get this out to as many people as possible. That's also the thing about this show and the music I've done in the past, Tad. I just want people to hear it. Put a lot of work into it. I want more people to listen and to hear it. So that's also really important. I'd love to play a bunch of clips from this. It's just I'm not sure how it translates to radio. I think that last trailer kind of showed that you really have to see this. So all over YouTube and at theamericandreamfilm.com, you can see some clips of this. I'm sure you know that there are unauthorized entire versions of this going out everywhere. So people.
Well, we actually posted it. It's on our website now. People can watch the whole movie for free. And we just said, hey, you know what? Watch it for free.
Donate.
If you love it and you want to donate, give us some help so that we can go make more. Because it's just everything you do every time you fly to conventions or to meetups or to this and to that, or you want to send 500 free DVDs to an organization who's out there who's going to push it. I've had emails from all over the world with people who want to translate the film in every language, from Czech, Italian, Russian, all over the world, that are like people around the world. There are people around the world who love this kind of stuff, and we need to get this in other languages. So it's kind of like everybody's got to kind of think of it as, if they care about these issues, we need support in helping to do these things. But right now, I mean, we hope everybody loves it, and I think the bigger the audience and the more it goes on, the more compelling case we'll have to get even, another investor involved even. So
good. And a smart idea to put the whole thing on your website so that people are going and trafficking your website and not, maybe just going out to YouTube and getting it, because we do have to support this. Now, I got to get into some controversial stuff with you just because, again, of the times we live in. Tad Lumpkin is with us, and this film is The American Dream. You've got to see it, theamericandreamfilm.com, and just give it to everybody you know. This is pretty friendly. I guess even children could watch it. It's a little kind of an adult cartoon, but there's nothing worse, nothing as bad as you're going to see on, network TV prime time. So, I mean,
right.
You can do that, and the old people can watch it, because it's a cartoon, but it translates with information. It really is fun for the whole family. But here's the problem now that it's just arisen, and that is with this Arizona shooting and the so-called shooter, this massacre, this child killer, was talking a lot about currency. Has that floated over to you guys, and do you expect maybe to fend off some attacks, because now currency equals child killer? Any discussion of that, apparently?
Well, we haven't. I've only heard that more, not so much as it relates to our film, but more people who are trying to look for a way to plug any bad event into the whole of this liberty message is fringe and radical. And like you saw it with, from the day that you saw the controversy, the Department of Homeland Security putting out that thing that said, watch out for homegrown terror, because now terror doesn't just look like, what you think it might look like from radical Islam. No, don't just be afraid of that. Now be afraid of your neighbor, of all the people who, you've lived next door to, and veterans, and people who use the word patriot and constitution. And it's like, there is a whole element in both the government, the media, that wants so badly to take out the
desperate
patriotic movement. They're desperate to do it. So it's like, even I've seen articles where, because I went and looked at this nut job's website, when our story broke, I watched the YouTube thing. This guy is rambling some incoherent, dark fantasies. He's obsessed with, obviously himself. He has elements of grandeur. And he goes out and he also lists, by the way, the Communist Manifesto. He lists Animal Farm as their Orwell book. He has Mein Kampf on there. But what do they focus on? They focus on not Mein Kampf and the Communist Manifesto, but they're like, well, this guy's into Orwell, and it's like he talks about the gold currency and this and that. When it's just misconstruing it to make it sound like, wait, so he wants small government and the gold standard. That means that he's a radical patriot who goes and kills a bunch of people randomly at a peaceful meetup. It's such a horrible misconstruement. It's completely irresponsible. By the way, the right wing, they do the same thing. These guys, it's like people need to just stay focused on the truth and let it come through, and that is what will save the day. And the rest of these people, one wants to control you one way, and the other one wants to control you the other way, and people need to not stand for that.
Well, we predicted the Federal Reserve is going to go down. I think it's a foregone conclusion. They've taken so much heat and so many bullets, and it's impossible, even with the most brilliant mind control, fluoride in the water, and government intervention, whatever. They're not going to be able to get back to the state of respect that they had, of just complete brain numb respect and faith that the American people had and what they thought was federal and what they thought had reserves. So they've got to change the picture somehow, and they'll fill that vacuum if we don't. So one of the things I want to ask you in the show today, maybe you have an idea of, is what should take its place besides just gold-backed money? That is definitely something I want to talk about if we can in the next segment. This film, again, the AmericanDreamFilm.com. The American Dream. It's a 30-minute cartoon telling us all about our money, and it's very, very well done. The villains in this, besides the bankers, the Rothschild overlords. Dad, the animation is brilliant. They don't even have faces. They just have, crests with the Rothschild or Red Shield crest on it. And you talk about how they're engineering the wars to get us into debt. How, and this is a point. I guess this kind of goes with the last thing we were talking about. But let's face it, when there were bank runs back in the day, as you depict in your cartoon, they'd hang those bankers for stealing from them.
Right.
Now it's all allegedly perfectly legal. I do mean allegedly.
Yes. Well, I mean, we use Rothschild specifically too because when you look historically, there was quite a rivalry between he and Jefferson as well, which I don't know if a lot of people know.
It is Hamilton's birthday today, by the way. Yes, happy.
Oh, well, and there you go. Happy birthday! Thank
Rotten
you.
your grave, you POS. Yes.
But there was a big rivalry with that whole high finance crowd and Jefferson's philosophies, and we used Rothschild in particular because really Rothschild invented the modern the kind of first modern global finance organization, and when you look at what he and his brothers did, creating kind of basically an intelligence network that was, what the CIA is today, plus it's like Goldman Sachs and the CIA, and they managed to control information and banking throughout Europe and, want to control throughout the world. It's unbelievable when you see that, and that's why we used them as just, it's kind of like the stuff that went on as a result of that is just kind of really fun.
Let's pick up there when we come back. Great film, the AmericanDreamFilm.com, The American Dream. Tad Lumpkin with us on the show today, Deadline Live. I'm Jack Blood, your radio gun. This is Oracle Broadcasting and Affiliates. Stay with us. Well, that is the music that inspired the alleged shooter. You see how that goes. Thanks for joining us, Deadline Live. Sorry to the kiddies out there. This is an internet radio show, as far as I know. Tad Lumpkin with us, and it's a great film. You must see this. It is 30 minutes out of your life. It's highly entertaining, and you might even learn something. It is The American Dream, theamericandreamfilm.com, and Tad is one of the filmmakers, one of the directors, one of the writers of all of this. One of the great parts of the film, I gotta say, Tad, and I love this story. It is the story of Waterloo. I guess we could tie that into the Gulf of Tonkin, into 9/11. They're just a little sneakier about how they do these things these days. But tell people who haven't heard that story how the Rothschilds took over control of Europe by the battle at Waterloo.
Well, basically, I think this you see this happen in a good example of it is that all the same huge companies, Wall Street gives a bunch of money to the Republicans and they give a bunch of money to the Democrats. So no matter who wins, they make sure that they win. And I think that idea of the finance industry making sure they hedge their bets on both sides has been there since the modern finance industry started, which we sort of, I look at it and I kind of point to the Rothschild family as really taking it to the next level. And these guys were, involved in financing governments, warfare, expansion of kingdoms, all the same stuff government expands for now because government wants more reach, more power, more range, all those things, and they need the banks to do it, because where else are they going to get the money from? And a lot of times it's just like, you tell me what I need to do for you so that you can give me the tools that I can go, expand my power. And when those politicians are long out of office, the banks are entrenched in there over the long haul as far as their influence and their reach. So there's a healthy place for banking, and there's a healthy place for government. But there's not a healthy place for banking and government to be in bed together. There is no healthy place for that. So
Rothschild
really
got ahead of the information, again, controlling information those days by horseback, as you depict in your film, and they were able to come back from the battle at Waterloo and say that the British had lost the war. That was it. They were going to be enslaved and invaded. They waited until the bottom fell out of the economy, came in and bought low until they owned absolutely everything. This has been a tactic that has been used again and again and again throughout history, though now they don't wait for a war to happen. They create the wars themselves, or a 9/11, or a Gulf of Tonkin, for that matter, or whatever, so that they can, again, suck the governments and the people into borrowing this money, getting more and more into debt to them. And then, of course, dividing and rule keeps people busy so they don't point the finger at the Federal Reserve or the Bank of International Settlements or what have you.
Well, and that's also, the whole idea. When you get massive inflation and deflation spikes where prices go way up and way down, the same thing starts to occur, right? Prices in housing go up rapidly. All these people who otherwise would never have gotten into the housing market rush into the housing market, and there's this massive expansion of debt. Well, then what happens? All these people come in to buy all these houses. They overbuild. They do all this stuff. The banks make gargantuan sums of money. Now, what happens when the whole thing implodes? All the asset prices, all the way around the board, completely collapse. Well, the banks get bailed out by the government. They privatize their gain and socialize their loss. And then who's in first buying the stuff at rock bottom prices? Well, all the same people who financed them on the way up, and people who've got billions of dollars on the sideline. It's not the common guy. That's not working for the common guy. We need stable, solid money. We need money that stays the same or increases in value slowly over time, the way that we've had for a long, long time. The volatility and the up and down, the fact that stock markets become a casino and the value of the dollars become, arbitrary. It is so bad for 99.99% of America that in the world, that it's
right.
The problem.
No, and the answer to this by the big government pimps, the lovers of the bureaucracy, as we've called it, the people who worship at the feet of John Maynard Keynes and Alexander Hamilton. Their solution to all of this is to get us more in debt, to control us even more, to attack people as crazy that reveal this giant scheme. And then, of course, to join into even a more centralized creature of Jekyll Island, a worldwide economy and a worldwide dollar and a worldwide bank. I know you understand all of that. I have a couple of questions from my listeners. They're up on the DeadlineLive.info chat today. One of them is, by all of this talk, anti-Federal Reserve talk, aren't we, in a way, helping the controllers, the money masters, the money kings, by devaluing the dollar, which is what they want to do all along? Are we somehow playing into this, even accidentally?
Well, I think that, here's the thing is that I think that there is a huge amount of the establishment that is just, they're going to keep doubling down until they can't double down anymore. That's the reason why it's like, well, the economy's slowing and we're massively in debt, so let's spend more money we don't have to stimulate the economy. How does that make any sense? Does anyone go out and say, hey, I make less, I had to take a pay cut at work, so I'm going to go use my credit cards to stimulate my home economy, and so therefore I'm going to make more money now? No, you're going to end up with crap you can't afford and a big bill that you can't pay. And that's exactly what we're doing. So then their answer is, when the symptoms of that type of idiocy start to play itself out and they can't control it, because ultimately the free markets and the people will have the final say, which is why this stuff always ends in collapse. they double down. So how do they double down? Well, they got to get the people who are causing causing their plan in the short run to go awry. So it's like, well, the problem is the Chinese won't value their currency right. So now we need a global currency so that now we can centrally control the whole grid. And that's the same thing you're seeing in Europe. It's like, well, the Greece doesn't want to take the austerity, but now they're on the euro, so now they don't control their own destiny anymore. So
exactly.
The answer is like,
which they could have done if they had a more decentralized and, by the way, real money. Look, Tad, everything has to do with real money. When you're talking about health care, when you're talking about, how you can buy a house or afford a house, or how you can take care of your family or educate or even go on vacation, everything in your life hinges upon real money. And when you have fiat currency, even if we have to suffer a little bit through this to get it re-engineered to be more of a freedom currency, a real currency, by the way, maybe that's what we have to do. We've dug ourselves a pretty big grave here, Tad. It's not going to be easy climbing out.
No, it won't be. And what it all starts with is people are like, well, what should we do? Well, I mean, I'll tell you, the first thing that you do is the most dangerous thing about government is monopoly. Okay, is that when you say the only thing you can use, and if you do it any other way than this, we will come and we will arrest you and we will throw you in prison, is our money under our rules, under our way. So the first thing, which Ron Paul advocates this all the time, just start to open competition up. Let banks issue their own money. Let people issue their own money. Let people use gold if they want. Let people use silver. And start to break and entrench the monopoly. And then what we do is if we trim our government down to the proper size, if we got real money, if we got a fair tax code, if we would do all these things and get government right back in, there is no question a probably couple-year-long serious amount of pain while the whole system realigns. But if you point at, like an example, there was a terrible depression in between 1920 and 1921, and it only lasted about 18 months because they did nothing. They just let it all wash through. Bankruptcy occur, liquidate all the debts, everybody starts over, and then the productivity of Americans, they got right back to work, but they didn't have all the debts hanging over their head anymore. And over the next 10 years, there was a boom of prosperity. Instead, what we do is we keep throwing more and more, medication at the problem, and like it's going to do anything, and it just drags on and drags on and drags on and procrastinates the inevitable.
Well,
crash.
we're in the time now where we're going to see all this, excuse the term, change. Pat, please, you can stay with me for one more segment because let's talk about where we should be going, what we should be asking for, what freedom really looks like for us. Tad Lumpkin with us, theamericandreamfilm.com. Go check it out. Tell everybody about it. We'll be right back. Deadline Line, Jack Blood, Oracle.
Been wrestling with demons in small bottle prisons. Been talking to sinners who claim to be Christians. Been shouting at leaders who claim to be listening. And the pendulum swings from the left to the right. Its momentum increases the need for the fight. Like a moment of blindness and a lifetime of sight. And I am caught somewhere in the middle.
Well, thanks for joining us, folks. This film's awesome. Go check it out. American Dream. It's American Dream cartoon, and they are AmericanDreamFilm.com. One of the writers and filmmakers of this great. It's a 30-minute video exposing the Federal Reserve and our money system. One of the creators is Tad Lumpkin. He joins us on the show today live. Thank you, Tad, again for your valuable time. I appreciate it.
Of course, absolutely.
If we can back our money by, our hard work and our sweat and our commitment and the truth, what a different world it can be. You actually get into that a little bit in your film, talking about, and I don't know if I heard that or when you were on the show with the judge here recently, but fact of the matter is, Andrew Jackson did a lot of bad things, but one of the good things he did is he killed the banks. And for a long time, this country saw quite a economic recovery, and it happened pretty fast. I think the Civil War was a part of stopping all of that and getting things back on track. That might be speculation, but that's what we know. So it can be done. We've killed the banks before. We can kill the banks again. We can get a good run going here and bring prosperity and freedom back to the American people and the people of the world, because this is a global situation. Tad, one of the questions I know one of my listeners would have here, and I do as well, is the gold standard. Getting our currency hooked back and backed by gold, when gold itself, though not a true commodity, can be manipulated. Are we going to run into the same problems? What holes are there in that fix?
Well, number one is that I guess anything can potentially be manipulated. The thing that's been great about gold for literally thousands of years, and the reason it's been used as a currency for so long, is because primarily that's its only purpose is currency. People have had a value for gold across the world in different cultures for a long, long time and used it as, an instrument of conducting trade. And there's a finite amount about it. It's got very great long-term properties, and you don't have a ton of industrial uses for it. So I think gold is a portion, at least, of any solution. What I would say is this. The first thing is any currency that we're going to have that replaces it needs to be redemption-oriented, right? Right now, they just print money out of thin air based on absolutely nothing. But whatever you replace it with needs to have real value. So it's kind of like, well, is it a share of Apple? Is it gold? Is it silver? Is it oil? Is it this? Is it a basket of all those things? There's a lot of good ideas that I think we could put out there, and that's why I say let's have more free market, and let's see if someone can innovate something that no one's ever thought of before. But I think that gold most likely is probably at least part of the solution. It is 100,000 times more honest than what we have, and even with any of the downfalls that it has, it worked for a long time. We went through a lot of long-term growth, and I'll take my chances with plugging in gold and silver and precious metals for the time being, and then throw it out to the marketplace to figure some better idea out.
Oh, good. Let's just go right to the barter world. We've got everything set up for it. Let's just barter from now on, and we'll control things geographically anyway and keep the money in our own communities. I don't think that's a bad idea. Now, I have said that the replacement for the Federal Reserve in this case would be to decentralize banking as much as possible and to, in some way, have a check and balance for the investment houses, which they really do use that to control our property and our politics and everything else. So that has to be included into this. But even a state bank where the money is kept in a decentralized fashion and kept, again, into our communities. Call it sustainable money, even though we hate the word sustainable sometimes on this show. But to decentralize this as much as possible would be to reverse the process. Do you have any ideas on when, not if, but when the Federal Reserve goes down because of all this bad publicity, including your cartoon, what should really take its place, and how should we financially communicate with each other?
Well, I mean, what I think we need to do is that we need to first off, one way that we've lost our path is the fact that we've number one, creating unlimited amounts of debt and unlimited amounts of money is where these gargantuan bubbles come from. If you limit the amount of increase and decrease in all this credit supply, which can only really be possible by having a fiat currency, that's going to eliminate these gigantic swings. Number two is, the big problem is, with banking and investing, we have lost our way on what the functions of the two are. Banking, was originally started as a stowage of money. A bank should look like, here's my money, they keep it all in the vault, they charge you a fee, you can use their bill pay and their internet and their ATMs or whatever else you want to use, and if everybody goes to get their money back, they've got all your money for you. And there's no risk, zero risk. It's never going to be a bank run. On the other side, you have some money you want to, invest. You want to make a return. You're also willing to take the risk. Then you go to a separate place where there is no guarantee. And you can go buy a CD. You can go buy a stock. You can go do this or do that or whatever and take the risk, accept the upside, lose the downside. And if that falls in on itself, well, then you didn't have to be a part of that. So I think we need to get back to the concept of Okay, Citibank, which is out there selling insurance, buying derivatives, doing this thing, doing that thing, and betting with huge sums of government-issued, out of thin air credit, and taking on huge amounts of risk and betting people's paychecks that they need to pay their electric bill to do so, is a completely idiotic system that is so predicated on just this appetite to grow and grow and grow at the maximum speed. In the short term, you're going to collapse the whole system. There should never be too big to fail, because we should never allow the system to be that interconnected that it literally will bring down the entire world. So, I think it's
too big to fail is the word we've all learned here, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people have heard that and went, hey, you know what, I caught that one, too big to fail. Let's make things smaller, which I think is a good thing. That might have backfired on the rhetoricians.
Yeah, no, well, that's right. I mean, even in part of the movie, when the guy says, that the banks, won't the banks fail? Won't they suffer? Why would they want to ruin everybody? And he goes, they're protected. They're too big to fail. And then the character realizes, but I'm not. And that's the thing it's like when you get highly concentrated, powerful special interests, they become too big to fail. But the individual on his own is just, one vote or one nuisance in the past. So we've got to break down the collusion between the private sector and special interests and government. Until we pull those two things back apart and maintain
the revolving door. Yeah.
Exactly. Then we're just never going to have it.
As Kennedy wanted to do with the CIA and the Federal Reserve, smash it all into 1,000 pieces. That'll be their 1,000 points of light right back at you. Take this one right in the nuts. By the way, the film starts out, the guy being evicted from his home has to go take his balls out of a box and put them back on so he can go face the music and the truth as he goes back through history through kind of a Back to the Future theme. Brilliant work. I just can't thank you enough for making it and for making time to be on the show today. Best of luck to you. I think a deal for TV. My friend Kevin Booth got American Drug War on Showtime again and again and again and took it to film festivals, and there's no reason why what you've done can't be, part of the 1,000 channels of programming we have out there. This will be deprogramming, and we need more of that.
Yeah. Well, we want as many people to see it as possible, and we're working on doing that every single day. So, our hope is a lot of people see it and love it. And we made this for for your listeners to go to their family members who don't know this stuff and have it cool to introduce them. I mean, that's why we made this film, is for everybody else, not to hear the message.
Go check it and to support it and help it to stay and go even more viral. The AmericanDreamFilm.com. Tad, thanks for your time. Great job. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely.
All right, there he goes, folks.